Good evening, Kenya. From the busy streets of the capital to the quiet hills of the village, welcome. I am Bai Maina. Tonight we are connecting the dots. We are looking at the walls dividing our cities, the invincible enemies on our phones, and the drought that is changing our map. We are asking the questions you're asking in your homes. This is Newswave. Let's begin with our first story on the growing divisions within Kenyan cities. A luxury apartment block rising up, and right next to it, a settlement with no water and no lights. Is it a tale of two cities? We love the new expressways, but for millions of Kenyans, the city is becoming a harder place to survive. Inequality isn't just about money. It breeds crime, and it breeds anger. Tonight, we ask, in a growing city, who is being left behind? Let's hear from the reporter.
Kenya cities are expanding fast, but not equally. Social media romanticizes urban life, yet the truth on the social ground is a divided reality.
Nikasikia watu nje wakisema wanta. Sasa nasimamanga karibu hapa pa mlango. Kidogo wakaingia, mmoja akanishika kininyonga na akanishikia kisu. Wengine wakarudisha milango yote wakafunga na wakaingia ndani. Na mangunia wakaanza kutoa vitu. Nikawauliza nini, wakaniambia wewe tulia.
Kaa hapo katikati ya town, pale kila mtu yuko na security iko. Tunaweza fanyiwa hivi katikati ya town pale, everything sisi tunajua tuko sakiwa. Watu wanaingia tu wanakuja wanafanya vitu kama hizi.
On one side, wealth and comfort. On the other side, insecurity, frustration, and community fighting to be seen. When does urban growth become urban exclusion? This is Jonathan Gugi for Newswave.
Now, into the questions. If you had to point one single mistake Kenyan made in the past 30 years that created this divided city setup, where wealthy areas and slums are neighbors, but worlds apart, what was the mistake and why is it hard to fix it now?
Thank you. The biggest mistake Kenya did in the 30 years, and that's why right now we are in a ditch, is because they refused to control and to regulate the slums areas, increasing people in masses. They increased people in masses because this was politically influenced, because most of the politicians, they don't want the areas to develop so that they can control people and they can be able to get voters. They say when you want to use a man, make sure he doesn't have anything that he does. Most of the people in slum areas, they don't have jobs, of which is a problem that is a man-made problem created by a man so that he can be able to control these people. The biggest mistake, and we'll continue having it until the government changes, is the moment we stop and we start empowering those people.
Forget big budgets and grand plans for a moment. What is the one cheapest, fastest infrastructure fix, like communal water points or better street lighting, that will immediately improve dignity and safety in informal settlements right now? And what is stopping that one thing from happening today?
By doing, first and foremost, by giving them jobs, creating opportunities where people can be able to move into apartments of which they can be able to pay. The second thing, the biggest problem Kenya did, they never built affordable houses, of which it could have controlled the biggest population. So most of the people, when they come to Nairobi, they don't have those good conducive houses where someone can live. So, and the only way they opt out to do is just to go to the slum. In another setup, you see, like when someone goes to in a well-developed area, the rent there is very, very expensive to an extent for a normal Kenyan is very difficult to afford. Then another thing, corruption has been a cancer for this nation. citizens of Kenya, when a politician or an individual get an opportunity, instead of thinking about empowering and developing the community, they so much focus on their own, buying in some specific areas, and they square themselves there so that the bridge between the haves and have-not, it becomes so wide to an extent it's very difficult now to join the two parties.
Thank you for answering that question. Another question that I have for you is, many citizens simply do not trust local government to spend tax money fairly. How can City Hall build real lasting trust with residents in informal settlements, to get them involved in planning instead of just treating them as a problem that needs to be managed or removed?
Thank you. First and foremost, the thing they can be able to do is to eradicate nepotism. When they empower people who are close to the county, they create a gap that is huge for people to gain trust. Once they start employing those people from those neighborhoods, they'll create trust, and it will be easier for them to see they are solving their problem. The next thing they can do is to stop treating them as just another community. They treat them as neighbors, as people who need to be served with dignity. Because by doing that, they will feel a sense of belonging, and that's what most of people lack. Another thing is to post every budget, because most of the things are done in secrecy. No one can be able to account for anything. So once every budget is done and is put out there on newspapers, on all those kind of social media platforms, it will be good for them to regain the trust again.
Moving on now to cybersecurity and digital parenting in the new AI era. Now, let's talk about children. Right now, they might be in the next room, on a tablet or a phone. You think they are safe because they're inside the house? Think again. Let's hear from the reporter.
Parents want to protect their children, but in this age of AI, the threats are invisible, constant, and just one click away.
Exploring and looking around at all the great work that we're able to do with the new AI and the workers there, but also the impact that we can have on the community.
Giving back to the society means a strong organization brings up a stronger community, and at New AI, together with our partners, that is one of the initiatives we have to work on as an organization.
From deepfakes to cyberbullying, Kenyan families are navigating online spaces that evolve faster than they can react.
So the first product that we came up with was e-books, because books make one of the core elements of learning within the education curriculum. Secondly is comprehension. So books alone don't get learners to meet their learning objectives. You also need technology to help ensuring that there is understanding within classroom.
Is digital parenting today about control or survival? This is David Kibet reporting for Newswave.
We are privileged to have an expert who is going to share his experiences with us. Thank you for being here. On to my first question. How can AI be used responsibly to protect children online?
Amazing. So AI can be used at scale to protect children and kids across different platforms. One of the ways that AI can be used to protect kids online, number one, I would say to help monitor or detect some behavior that we might flag as not so good. For example, we've had cases online where children were searching, a child was searching something online, and the result they ended up getting, it proposed to them to actually commit suicide. So AI can be used to monitor or flag these events in the search browsers. Number two, I would say AI can also be used to detect harmful content that children come across online. So AI can be integrated into systems, platforms, so that when a child goes online and is somewhat biased towards content that might be flagged as harmful to them, the AI can shut down that process.
Thank you. What is the difference between monitoring and trust? Is the best defense a parent control app or a difficult conversation with the children?
Interesting question. So I think to best answer your question, I would try and break it down. So for monitoring, I would equate it to more of awareness. So it's the parent trying to be aware of what the child is doing online, or what the child is using, his child is trying to do online. And trust, I would try to equate it to trying to build a relationship. So in this case, a parent trying to build a relationship with the child, trying to establish what the child can do online without close monitoring by the parent. So to answer your question on what will suffice, either a parental control app or having a conversation, I would say a pinch of both. And maybe just to emphasize or to put it into perspective, I would recommend a pinch of both, in the sense that you get to consider or factor in the age or maturity factor of the child. So let's say for children from the age of, let's say, 6 to 10, there you can implement a lot of monitoring, since it's at that period that they are getting hands-on experience online. So there you can implement a lot of monitoring and basic conversation. During their early teenagehood, I would recommend building trust now between the parent and the child, because at this age, if you do a lot of monitoring, it will spark off reactions like rebellion or secrecy. So at this point, you minimize on the monitoring, you build now on the trust, and also now you have more adult conversation. Then later on in their teenagehood, say 15 to 18 years old, at this point now I would recommend now building more trust and having now more logic and adult conversations on the same. So yeah, so a pinch of both trust and monitoring.
To the next news. Droughts and climate events threaten livestock vital to many families, triggering migration. When the drought kills the herd, it kills the community. Families are walking hundreds of kilometers just to find water. This is the face of climate change. Let's hear from the reporter.
Hiyo kidogo makara hiyo imekufa 30. Hii 20 imeusausa shule na kukula ya chakula ya mtoto. Basi memaliza kila kiugi.
Watu wanaamka saa 9 usiku, wanatembea kwa matoche za mikono, na sometimes kuna hatari kwa sababu kuna wanyama pori, kuna ndovu, kuna fisi, lakini itabidi.
Hatuna maji ya kukunywa, Last week ilinyesha kidogo ndio tunachota saa hii na ni chafu lakini hatuna otherwise.
The silent famine doesn't start in the marketplace, it starts in the fields, in the drought-stricken lands and in the death of livestock long before hunger becomes visible.
Because for the last 3 years they have experienced relentless drought and now they don't have even having the usual livestock, their livelihood that they are depending on, and now they normally sell and buy enough food for the family, but now they don't even possess that livestock because it has now perished.
The drought has made our animals so weak. When we finally take them to market, the price they offer is nothing. It's an insult. With that little bit of money, I can't even buy enough food for my children. How am I supposed to pay for a doctor? How do I pay hospital bills? There is nothing left.
We are pastoralists and we depend entirely on our livestock. The drought has depleted them. Now, selling the few that are left to survive only means our stock, our only wealth gets less and less. It is a cycle that is destroying us.
Communities are being pushed from survival to migration, not by choice, but by the climate extremes. This is Lynette Kamande for Newswaves.
Back to the studio. We now speak to climate adaptation expert.
Yes, hello. My name is John Mrema. I'm an expert in climate change. I've been observing the systems and how climate has changed over the past century, and especially after the Industrial Revolution. And I believe that there is a need for more to be done in regards to climate change, especially in developing nations. And here in Kenya we have seen some of those effects, and they are wide-ranging, and there is a need for a solution to tackle some of these issues.
Thank you for being here, and thank you for taking your time. Here is the first question that I have for you. What practical solutions exist to help pastoralists adapt to climate challenges?
Pastoralists, the first thing is the first fundamental thing that we need to understand about pastoralist communities is that mobility is a key factor in the pastoralism way of life. So there is a need to protect their migratory routes, and this includes including more water areas where they can be able to, the animals and the pastoralists themselves can be able to get water, because water is a key element that is missing. And there is also a need for better resource management, and a need to see pastoralists and pastoralism as a major economic activity as compared to the way it is being viewed as a very backward and retrogressive practice that eventually, if that trend continues, more resources are not poured into this vital sector, which has a lot of people that a lot of families eat every day because of pastoralism. And there is also a need to invest in value addition. This includes making sure that the skins from the cows, the skins from the sheep, the skins from the camel, the milk from the camel are being used, are being taken to the local markets, and this will give a buffer for the pastoralists so that they can be able to get an extra source of income. And during.
Thank you for the insights. On to my other question is, how can humanitarian aid better support long-term resilience?
There is a need for humanitarian aid, not to be coming at the time of crisis, but to be coming earlier. And this will be able to help better plan for the resource management, better plan for the water points, better plan for the migratory routes, and also better plan for insurance. Because we understand that when pastoralists have insurance, it becomes easier for them not only to get the much needed services that they require, but also to caution them when drought occurs, and they can be able to return to their former financial position. There is also a need for a humanitarian aid to deal with the local people on the ground. These are the people that have been there for years. These are the people that know the drought patterns. These are the people that always know how to deal with the drought situation. Humanitarian aid should not come as a replacement, but rather as a complementary role, so that the two can work together in order for them to be able to make the pastoralist life easier. And there is also a need for because as we have said that mobility is one of the major issues in pastoralism, there is a need for humanitarian aid also to help the pastoralists when it comes to cross-border migration, because you can see, for example, here in Kenya, the pastoralists in Moyale sometimes move up to Ethiopia, and some of these things there is need for aid and supply lines to be created in such a way that they can be able to caution the pastoralists from the adverse climate change effects that we are seeing currently.
And finally tonight, we talk about rights. You pay your taxes, you follow the law. So when you go to a public hospital and there's no medicine, who is responsible? When you seek justice and the case drags on for 10 years, who is to blame? Let's hear from the reporter.
A smear campaign in Nairobi is causing fear and confusion. Families and communities are being affected every day. We break down what's happening and who is suffering the most. I am Lynette Kamande, Newswave.
Thank you to our legal experts. We'd like to ask you some few questions. What mechanisms can enforce accountability on state institutions?
Meaningful reform. Change starts with awareness and participation. Citizens can demand accountability by voting, engaging in peaceful protests, and using legal channels such as public interest litigation. Communities can organize through civil society groups, attend public forums, and demand transparency from their leaders, using the media and digital platforms to document and report abuses and matters. When citizens act collectively, consistently, and within law, they become a powerful force of reform.
My other question for today is, how can communities effectively demand their rights and reforms?
There are several key mechanisms. First, constitutional and legal frameworks. Laws, courts, and independent prosecutors allow officials to be investigated and prosecuted when they abuse power. Second, oversight bodies such as parliamentary committees, ethics commissions, and auditors review government actions and spending. Third, independent institutions like the judiciary and anti-corruption agencies play the critical role in checking executive powers. Finally, media and civil society scrutiny help expose wrongdoing and keep pressure on institutions to act.
That concludes this edition of Newswave. Thank you for joining us and contributing to these vital conversations. Your voice matters. Stay engaged on our social media platforms. I am Bai Minor. From all of us at Newswave, stay informed and empowered. Good night.